Hey friends, welcome to Wednesday. It is Ask a Flower Farmer and it is your friend Lisa Mason Ziegler, and kind of glad to be on here with you today. I don't know how the weather is for you, but it's kind of it's like spring here. It is February, what is today? February 20th or something. And my saucer magnolia tree at home, which is huge, is in full bloom, and it's a whole month earlier than it's ever been. And we haven't, usually when this kind of behavior happens, it opens because we'll have like 1 or 2 days warm, which will push it, because it's kind of like a hydrangea. It gets its buds last year that are blooming now, so the buds have just been sitting there waiting. Anyway, that didn't happen, and so we actually went down to 32 to 31 degrees one night, but it didn't burn it up. Anyway, it's absolutely beautiful. So it's like spring here. How long is that going to last? You never, ever know. You can't count on it. And I don't count on weather. If I push the envelope, I always have a backup plan, meaning, for instance, if I plant something earlier than I'm supposed to, let's just say warm season tender annuals, which we don't even start planting normally until like mid-April. If I was going to push the envelope, you better believe that I would have row cover and hoops ready and waiting to go into action in the event that something happens. So if you're new here, this is Ask a Flower Farmer. That means that I'll do my best to answer some of your questions. If you would like to ask me a question, you just need to post them down in the little bubble with the question mark at the bottom of your screen. That means is all that I see is your question. I don't have to scroll through all the names and perhaps miss your question. So if you have a question, whether it's on flower farming or just growing cut flowers in your backyard or seed starting or cool flowers or even farm dogs, y'all, you can post it down in the bubble, and I will get to answering those here in just a few minutes. So I'm at the fulfillment center. As you can see, I'm standing out here in our seed pick room, where the girls are. It's just busy as bee here. Everybody's just knee deep. If they're not picking orders, they're packaging product. And I did put a holler out. If there's anybody local, if you know anybody local to Newport News, we are looking for a part-time warehouse helper, and that would be a job of packaging products, picking orders, and just have to say it's with a great group of folks, and we just can't get caught up is our problem. So if you know anybody, they just need to send their resume to the info@thegardenersworkshop.com, and if you know of someone in this area that is happy, loves to go to work. Everybody here is pretty happy to be at work. And that's the kind of culture we try to cultivate around here. And so if you know somebody that would fit in nicely and enjoy it, there you go. So again, if you want to post your questions, be sure you post them down in the bubble with the question mark, and I'll get started on those in just a minute. So remember that today at 2 o'clock, I will be inside my phone app, which is called Gardener's Workshop Live Shop, where you just go to your phone app store and search that, Gardener's Workshop Live Shop. And today I'm going to be doing another run through of those 10 flowers that were by Bouquet Builders, our go-to flowers, that if you saw my Instagram post today, those bouquets, which is 1 week subscription, members only market pickup, that these are the flowers. And so I'll talk a little bit about those and run through them. So that show only lasts 30 minutes, just like this one, and it starts at 2 p.m. Eastern Time inside the Gardener's Workshop Live Shop app, where you can go back and watch the replay later if you want. That's the great thing about having the app. You can go in and shop anytime, and you can also go back and watch any of the replays, and it's really a lot of fun. So I hope you guys will meet me over there at 2 o'clock. So let's see, now we got a bunch of questions. Do you repair row covers? If so, how? So the row covers that we use are Ag 19, which are the super lightweight ones. And no, we don't have much luck repairing them. The key is to be careful with them. Row cover is definitely not what it used to be. You know, back when I started, back in the dinosaur times, even the Ag 19 was just more heavy duty. It is definitely lighter now. However, it's the way it's handled and also stored can help you to make it last longer without rips. Because the problem with a hole is that allows air to get in, and that air, you're not worried about the temperature, but that air will lift your row cover. If you have trouble keeping a row cover down and it's got holes in it, that's why. So really, we try not to really use row covers with holes. Sometimes we'll use them if we're doing a double layer on the bottom. But no, I have not found an effective way to actually repair those that actually lasts, right? Is there a way to save ranunculus that are yelling and legally? They were covered with cloth for cold weather for too long. I am happy but sorry to say that I do not grow ranunculus, so I am sorry. I am not your person to ask that question to. I really do not have the answer to that. So, still even flowers. With soil blocks, is it okay for the bottom of the blocks to have major roots swirling all together? I can gently lift up a section and they're all connected. Need to bump up or plant. So, we rarely, if ever, sorry, all my allergies are rocking me. My ears are itching. We rarely bump up. We only bump up those super slow growers like eucalyptus. And then a couple of vegetables that we do that with. So it would depend. Yes, if they're getting out of control, then it may be time to plant them if they've got that 3 to 5 inch top and it's the proper time. This is how you learn about why you shouldn't start too early. But bumping up is not really an option for us. We just grow way too much volume to be able to even think about doing that. So it really depends on what it is. But even if they grow into each other, their neighbors, when you just break them apart, when you go to plant them, that prunes the roots and fixes it all. So, hope that helps. So, we plant out our seedlings when they're 3 to 5 inches tall. But what about status? Can you give us size for that round for comparison? All right, so what she's saying is status's growth habit is just like Rudbeckia's, where the leaf grows from the base. There isn't really a central stem, right? So I look for one of those leaves to be 3 to 5 inches, or 3 inches most likely, or a little bit less even. So from tip to tip, 5 inches is probably what you're looking at. You just want a mature, healthy little transplant. So that was a great question. Morning, can you update us on what you're doing on the farm, chores, bed prep? What seeds are you starting? Just fun to hear. Thank you. And I heard a rumor about another book. What is this? When is it available? So it is a rumor. It's not a rumor. It's truth. I am in the midst. I'm deep in the throes of another book, of which, of course, I cannot tell you much about. Probably in June is when we'll start talking about it. It will not be available until February of 2024, which is 1 year from this month, right? But we'll start talking about it and then pre-selling it this summer. And we're going to have a lot of fun with it, too. You learn so much about launching books and just fun things you can do. And anyway, so we're super excited about that. And so I am hammering out the last of the texts, which is all due April 1st. Our last photography deadline is June 30th, and we just got the cover to the book last week, or let's put it this way, the preliminary cover. Nothing is in stone until it's printed, right? So anyway, it's very, very exciting, and you know what it's about. It's about cut flowers, but who knows what, right? So what we're doing on the farm now is Bobo is feverishly collecting all of our supplies for warm season seed starting, meaning I'll have to post the picture on social media. The farm now, we plant on the farm the same seeds that you see behind you. We take jumbo packs of seeds from here, to test out our own seeds, right? But also it's just super convenient for us to not have yet another huge bulk. I mean, we have a whole room of bulk seed supplies, right, or seed. So we take those home. So we are right now, because we're not really seed starting yet, we're kind of done with cool season, but it's not really time yet for warm season. So now is the time. So Bobo went through and made all the lists of all the stuff we wanted to start, checked on the farm to see, do we happen to have some or not? And then she brought her list to the warehouse today, where she's packaging here today, and grabbed a bazillion seeds that we will start starting in March. And it's still too wet to make beds. I would love to be able to make our warm season tender annual beds. I mean, once we get those beds made, I feel like 100% lighter, because I'm always worried, oh my gosh, what if it rains and rains and rains and we can't make our beds? And I will just interject this here, and you all know that I've got part of my farm. I've always been a conventional farmer. We use a tiller with a pull behind tiller on our tractor and use a bed maker. I did all by hand and a walk behind tiller for the first 10 years, then got a tractor, and that's what allowed me to really ramp up our production. Well, then about 4 years ago, we designated a portion of our garden to start messing around with no-till. And it's been a struggle. And I know that no-till is a struggle for several years until you get your head wrapped around. Jenny Love and I just talked about that. She and I did a podcast together on seed starting. And anyway, what I wanted to say was, so we're still in that no-till area working. And I mean, and from what Jenny said, it's to be expected the first 4 or 5 years that it is a lot of hand weeding. And, just where we're going, that's not really so much of an option because I don't have a full staff like we used to there. But what I was just going to say, what I have an amazing appreciation for now is our Bio 360 beds. 100% hands down, my preferred cool flower transplant beds, fall planted for sure, very early spring, I mean really, is to have Bio 360, the biodegradable black film on them. It prevents more weeds. It is just so much better. Warm season, I still prefer Bio 360 with the white or the gray side up, but we can get away with not doing that because the warm season stuff just jumps and grows fast. Cool does not do that, and it allows those weeds. So we're just fighting weeds right now. That's what we're doing on our farm. Bobo is the weed slayer, and including crimson clover, which went to seed once, and we have crimson clover all over now, which is not always a problem. But anyway, I'm going down a rabbit hole. So that's what we're doing on our farm, and thanks for asking. All right. Do you have a recommended way to fold and store row covers? So funny you should ask that. What we have just started doing on the farm, because we have I have enough row cover to pretty much cover our entire farm. I mean, that's called my insurance policy. That's how I sleep at night, knowing that if I need it, I have it, right? We used to just ball them up and corral them in a building it was literally an old, it's not wire, it's plastic, but it's like a compost bin. You may have seen plastic compost bins that were flexible, and you just throw your stuff inside of it. Well, we used to sell those years ago, and we have a couple of them, and that's what we put our row covers in. Well, the problem with that is rodents would make nests in there, and squirrels and mice and rats and everybody else. So about 2 years ago, Christine got the brainchild to roll them up onto the big roller and or the big core cardboard. I mean, not nicely, just to get it on there. And it has really revolutionized our row cover storage. It's really helped a lot. So we save those big cardboard cores. You might ask a fabric store for them or something. But that's how we store them now. And it 100% prevents rodents, and it's just easy to see what you have. So she says her status leaves are turning red, not uncommon. It's a nutrition thing. Once you plant them, they'll get all straightened out. And I forget if is it phosphorus or what it is, but they should be planted when they're like 3 to 5 weeks old, when they're big enough, and then that will just jiggy out after you get them in the ground. Morning, I have germination on my Lizzies. Are you partying or what? There seems to be some algae growing now. Should I do anything about this? When should I pot them up? So here's the thing that I just want to put this out there for everybody about Lizzianthus. As I've just lately been doing a little bit of research into this. You know, I have Lizzianthus seedlings. I bought plugs this year. I buy plugs always. But this year we also started seeds. And I don't know if y'all saw that controversy on Instagram. I left my Lizzie trays in the germination chamber. I didn't notice that they had popped. And they sat in there for like 4 days in the dark, and it stretched them so they didn't look like Lizzies, but they are Lizzies. We've confirmed that now. And anyway, so I've been doing a little bit of research, and, you know, we all feel like having the hooray party when we get them to germinate, as I did. I mean, I literally had a happy dance in my germ room. We had like 100% germination in our soil blocks. But that's not the hard part with Lizzies. The hard part is the next 8 to 10 weeks of keeping them below like 74 degrees. And here's the thing about Lizzianthus. Lizzianthus transplants hold a grudge. And what that means is if they get too warm during this growing up time, then that leads them typically to become stunted. It's called rosetting. And that means that they just grow vegetation. They never elongate and grow a stem. But all looks well to those of us that are growing them at home. This is why people buy plugs from growers, big greenhouses that have this whole temperature controlled thing under control. So I'm just saying that to say you just need to go online and do a little search on germinating growing up Lizzianthus transplants and get the 411 on that. So the reason blocks grow algae is because they're staying too wet 24/7. You have to have a constant state of moisture to grow algae and mold on soil blocks. And so that means they're not getting wet in the morning and then drying out by the next morning. And again, with Lizzianthus, because there's not this big ferocious root system sucking up the water, you know, drying them out quickly, that's another challenge. So you're going to have to really find that happy medium. So I would say go lighter on the watering until you kind of figure, you know what I mean? You don't want to overwater the blocks so that they're truly saturated. And, you know, so that's why there's algae. So you just have to figure out how to fix that problem. Just yet another way to kill Lizzianthus. I mean, the overwatering is such a challenge in any way you start them, not just the soil blocks. I think soil blocks is easier than, you know, any others. Top 3 flowers I can start from seed in the next week or so. Tammy, that question is not really answerable. First off, I don't know where you are. And that would just really depend on when your last frost date is. It's too late to start cool season, too early to start warm. But I'll be talking about the top 10 warm season annuals that I use for cut flowers on my show at 2 o'clock today. What beds do you not use Bio360 on? The only time that I would not use Bio360 is on a direct seeded bed. So that would be my fall planted direct sown beds, which, you know, there's just a handful that I actually do. But all the other beds would definitely be Bio360 is my first go-to. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't work out that we get them made that way if it's too wet and we can't use the tractor. But Bobo and I are experimenting now with getting the Bio360 on no-till beds, how to best make use of that, because I'm going to tell you that all of those little weeds, like I know Jenny Love uses that roll-out lightweight cardboard. Well, when I saw her do that, I thought we've got to be able to use Bio360 that same way. It's thinner. We have it. It's easier. You can get 2 beds out of one piece because of the width. And anyway, so we're experimenting with that. But Bio 360 all the way except for direct seeded beds. All right. I'm in zone 7A, Jersey Shore. Our weather is so erratic. It is everywhere. I would like to put my hardy annuals this weekend, but the following week is forecasting in the low 20s. Should I plant them this weekend? So if you're 6 to 8 weeks from your last spring frost, you're in that window. But if your weather looks, so we just chose to not plant our cool season hardy annuals last week for that reason, because we had a dip over the weekend, but the week after, like what we're in now for the next 2 weeks, the weather looks peachy. So I would look at your 2-week forecast. If the weather is coming back up after that dip, why not wait? Unless if you have adequate row covers and hoops that you can protect them, they'll probably be fine. But they won't be established, so you don't want to make them face a super low temp if you have a choice. The choice would be to wait or to plant them and definitely give them some protection. It's all about stress, y'all, and not when plants are established. When healthy transplants get planted into good draining soil and you provide them protection until they get established, they'll face anything. But it's during that getting established time where you need to give a little bit of TLC. At what point and stage are snaps ready to plant outside? Thanks for all your knowledge and wisdom. You're welcome. So snaps would be 3 to 5 inches. And if you're pinching your snaps before you plant them, we pinch them hard, but then we let them sit in the tray, on the tray for another 7 to 10 days so the little sprouts can actually grow from where you pinched them to show. That's the sign to me that they've recovered from being pinched. Pinching is a stress. Planting is a stress. 20 degrees is a stress. So you just don't want to pile all the stresses up. Does that make sense? If you think about it that way, every shock is probably okay individually, but when you do a bunch of them together, that's when we get in trouble. All right. How far apart do you stagger your Snapdragon seed starting? 2 weeks. How far? So I think you're asking about succession planting. I typically only... So here's the lesson I've learned about Snapdragons. There's definitely Snapdragons like the Potomacs that are made to bloom in long days, which is summer, right? And tolerate heat. However, in my experimenting of growing snaps later in the season like that, I can grow them, but they fall victim to disease and pest, rust being the big problem. I have never had rust on fall planted snaps, and even very early spring planted snaps. But when I plant them a little later in the season, they fall victim to that. So I'm just saying that you will have to test that theory where you are. Our heat and humidity just make that, it's not worth it. I mean, I'm growing so much other stuff at that time of summer that, I know that I can sell Snapdragons to my florist. I could have sold Snapdragons to florists at any time that I had them, but they had to be good quality. So check that out. And so if I was able to grow snaps longer, I would fall plant, very early spring plant, and then I would plant again 4 weeks later, and then you can do it even yet again. But again, it depends on your current conditions, because there's a lot of talk about that, but it's not all, it's one of those times where you can say, I can do it, but should I do it? Is the quality and what it's worth worthy? And for us, it wasn't, but I'm in the South, so it may be totally different for you. But I do them a month apart. My snaps are in soil blocks 5 to 6 inches. I had to hold them because of low 20s. Should I pinch them and then transplant in a week? Another low 20 forecasted for this week. If when we pinched them, we got the best transplants we'd ever, the strongest little transplants we had ever gotten. So, if they're only 5 to 6 inches and you got another round of 20s coming and it looks good after that, I'd pinch them and let them continue to sit and grow where they are, because pinching them buys you time. So you can surely do that. That's probably what I would do. Or, my theory always is do half. Plant half, keep half, and pinch them, maybe. All right. So this is a good question. I was just reading about Root Shield yesterday. Is Root Shield crucial when transplanting Lizzie? Do you have a more inexpensive alternative? If so, I'm growing on a smaller scale. So Root Shield it's an OMRI certified, which means it's organic. And I got interrupted and didn't finish reading. I thought, Dave, it's like hey, Rhonda, can you hear me? No. So Root Shield is a treatment that there you are. Root Shield is something we should look at for packaging, because it's really expensive. Anyway, I started to send it to you yesterday. Anyway, somebody's asking me about it. So Root Shield is a treatment that you water your transplants with, and it protects the roots from some of the common soil-borne diseases. I have never used it, but I definitely lose some plants. Not tons. And so there's a lot of different diseases that it protects your plants from. So I can't answer. I don't know of an alternative. The alternative is to not do anything. And so I have never used it, but we are investigating it, because I did lose some last year. Not many, but if I'd have been a big production grower, I'd have been freaking out, if an area of a bed had died. That's what happens. It's just, you'll hit a spot where like 10 plants will die, but it's not necessarily everywhere. So maybe we'll have more information on that coming. It's an expensive product, is why a lot of people don't use it. Hi, Lisa. I'm in zone 3 and my cool flowers have to go into the ground in the first 2 weeks of April. My plan is to hoop and cover them with frost cloths, but I'm wondering if I should also hoop and cover them with greenhouse poly to further protect them. So first off, I've never used plastic poly low tunnels because it totally changes everything. All of a sudden you go from having just row cover where water and heat can escape to when you put the poly on plastic, you are totally tied to that tunnel. Then you have to vent it. You have to pay super close. You can toast seedlings in an afternoon on a cold day that's bright sunshine outside. So I am not the one to ask that, probably the best person to ask. But, if you feel like you want to give added protection in zone 3 in April, so that's probably a couple months before your last frost. And by the way, that's the big advantage for people living in deep, long, cold winters, is how they can get stuff in the ground so much earlier than they can with warm season. I would consider doubling or tripling just the row cover. Lightweight row cover just to get more protection, but yet you're still getting some transfer going on. So I hope that helps you. So friends, it's just about time to go. Remember, at 2 o'clock, I'll be inside the Gardener's Workshop Live Shop app, which you can get at your phone app store, running through it's only a 30-minute show today, and I'm giving the overview again of those top 10 bouquet builders and a little bit about seed starting. And, I'm just going to try to give you a little bit extra, the 411 on that. So let me just answer this and we'll finish this one off. What weight of woven weed barrier do you use? I do not use, that can be called landscape cloth. It's got a lot of different names. There are still a few remnant pieces on my farm. We have never grown in it, meaning we've never used it on beds. But I have used it in pathways and around the perimeter of our beds. The problem with those of us that live in southern states where we have long growing seasons, that woven weed fabric gets eaten up with weeds in the blink of an eye. And there's actually businesses here in the South. You know what their business is? ripping that stuff out of people's landscapes and gardens because it gets so eaten up with roots. So we don't use it. We use the Bio 360, which is a biodegradable film, which is 100% compostable. And you can give that a try, you know. All right, so I think, hey y'all, it is 1 o'clock. So somebody is talking about there's a product called Surround that would be comparable to Root Shield. So we'll have to look at that too. So friends, I hope to see you at 2. Let's see, we got a lot of stuff happening. See you at 2 o'clock today, and then our big show is on Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time inside the app. Also, that's our big shopping show we do from the farm, Suzanne and Tucker and I. And then Saturday, it's Seed Starting Saturday. And so, friends, thanks so much for joining me here. And if you want to stay in the know, about everything, and let me just say, you want to be in the know, you need to sign up for our farm news. It's at the bottom. If you go to thegardenersworkshop.com, it's at the bottom of every page, and you sign up, and that way you will not miss out on special events we might be doing or just all kinds of fun stuff. And we send out, I think, 2 emails a week, and they're primarily content packed, y'all. So give us a whirl, and I hope to see you at 2 o'clock inside the Gardener's Workshop live shop. Ciao.